All right, here we go. We're ready? 3, 2, 1. Oh boy, we got spillage.
Oh geez, on your mic, right?
On
or
the
your
mic.
computer?
Cheers. On the mic, that's fine.
Cheers.
No putts
Sweet.
allowed. Paige
Yeah.
Kramer. Don't
Hello.
usually call myself Kramer. Kind of awkward already.
Really? Do you know? I never noticed that. Do you really not call yourself Kramer?
No. Well, who calls himself anything anyways? Like, I'm not a...
Well, no.
Yeah.
When you're saying your name, like
I to be clear,
you do say Adam. I didn't even think about that until just now, like
Adam,
live streaming and everything.
Adam and Paige. Yeah. So I'm cool with Kramer, right? Because growing up, it was like, oh, Seinfeld, like, oh, from Seinfeld, right? I've gotten that like 8 million times in my life. Like, whatever, buddy. Great. I don't run from the name. I like the name, but it's the first time I think I've ever done that. So
You prefer cream bone?
Crane Bone, I can do. If I ever refer to myself like that, though, leave immediately. Yeah, leave immediately. So we were joking coming on here, like we have to like get into like mid-season form like immediately. This is like feels like a seasonal, outside of gambling picks, which we'll probably do anyways. But like there is so much shit going on in college football, right?
Mm-hmm. There's a lot of news.
There's a lot of news, and they're practicing, and we're getting like normal press conferences. But as is the case, it seems like now every late July and early August, shit is hitting the fan. Now, we could start with like what last week we go off air and shit hits the fan like 2 hours later, right? That's normally
Colorado
where things
decides
begin.
officially they're leaving the Pac-12, which we spoke about, weeks ago when there was the rumor of them leaving for the Big 12.
Yes.
And sort of had that discussion about how like that's the start of the unraveling for the Pac-12 if that happens, because Colorado is not your premier program in the conference, and that's bad news Bears or bad news Buffaloes when you're having people leave like that, and you're already losing, USC and UCLA to the Big Ten. So that was kind of the start. And then, of course, the immediate next school to be brought up in the Pac-12 drama
Your school
was Arizona.
Yes.
And everyone was texting me, do you know anything? Do you know anything? Do you know anything? I'm like, I know as much as you guys know. Like, it makes sense that this is going to happen, and I anticipate that they will be leaving. I said a couple weeks ago, let's go. I'm fine with it. Like, this seems like a bad situation.
No, not to cut you off, but I asked you the other night. We were talking, and I'm like, so what do you think? You're just like, I don't know, man. Like, whatever. Like, just do, like, your response
just get it over with.
Was like a non-response.
Yeah, because I just, like, at this point, I'm like, just get it over with and make a decision, because I'm tired of hearing, like, the rumors. And then, obviously, this week there was the meeting about the media rights deal. Like, we've been waiting on this media rights deal forever. And, like, it's still, even the presentation didn't, like, lead to any concrete details of what they're willing to accept. But it sounds like the Pac-12 people are doing what we said we would do, which is buy low. Like, if I'm a streaming service, I'm going to buy low, and I think that's because the Pac-12 value is just decreasing as is. But, I'm guessing that Arizona will be the next one to jump. I know Jed Fish talked about, people asked him, like, oh, is Arizona would be the reason that, like, the Pac-12 would unravel then, which is very unfair to put on Arizona. I mean, sure, we can blame Arizona for everything, because that's usually what people do, especially in a certain media website. But I think
nice.
We're feeling feisty today. It's just one of those things where you're at a point where I want it to be resolved. And I think that, like, the Pac-12 was going to die off as is. There was rumors then of, Oregon and Washington and Stanford leaving for the Big Ten. Those happened before the Arizona rumors started of leaving to the Big 12. So I'm like, really, everybody is looking elsewhere right now. Everybody has a wandering eye, and the Pac-12 is about to get dumped.
So, okay, that's where I was going. There's so much to unpack, and we will attempt to unpack it. But the part of this that I think is most interesting is this stupid fucking media rights deal that we've been talking about for literally 6 to 8 months. And Ross Dellinger wrote about this, friend of the show, now with Yahoo, basically how underwhelming this deal was, that it was very stream heavy. So Apple was what the was being presented, which I think I understand, but I think to the average college football fan, they're kind of like, ew. I felt that way. Like, whatever, I'll stream, I watch, I do these things, but it wasn't exactly, if you're trying to grow your brand and you look at the power of the SEC and the Big Ten with ESPN and Fox and all these things, it's not quite the most powerful counter. The other part of this two-page, they've been like selling this like, oh, it's going to be worth the wait. This deal is going to be worth the wait. By the reporting that we've heard, it was not worth the wait. And I think that it is a game of chicken now. And Arizona, I think this is easy. Get out.
Yeah.
Get out of there. And Arizona State, can you come along as well with Utah, right? Right? Like, abandoned ship. And so,
of course, riding our coattails.
Yes, even better. So I think all of this, there's two levels of realignment that I want to talk about today. This is the one because it all impacts each other. What I'm curious about now to the Big Ten, because today Dan Wetzel, before we recorded, wrote it was Oregon, Washington, Stanford, and I think Cal. Like, okay,
Cal gonna be riding those coattails too.
As a Big Tenian, I'm like, Oregon, Washington, sign me up, right? Sign me up. That makes a lot of sense. But if you're the Big Ten, you're contemplating like a Western takeover here. You've got enough teams out there where you could do a West group. I am curious, and I'm thinking about this. I don't have a thought if I like it or not, other than I think getting Oregon and Washington in the fold for my just general like clap like a seal and like good football games. That does it for me. That would do it, right?
Yeah.
Like that to me is interesting. So
no, yeah.
What do you think about those rumors?
I'd be good with that. I personally would rather go to the Big Ten, but I know that's not a thing that's going to happen for Arizona. But I think having Oregon and Washington stay in those places, it is kind of sad for the like Oregon States because Oregon State has slowly but surely been closing that gap. I mean, it's not super close, but like they've certainly been closing that gap on talent level and success with Oregon. And it's sad that like teams like that, like the Oregons and the Oregon States and Washington States, and before it was rumored that Cal was going to be left out too, which I just found funny because it was like all the like big dogs of those rivalries just being like taken and moved on, and then those three just being like, what? You know what I mean? And then Utah and Colorado sort of, came together, and I'm assuming will leave together. And then, Arizona State and Arizona, again, you're linked and they're going to take those two. But it's funny that like the Big Ten's like, no, we're good. The Big 12's like, sure, we will take some rivalry games with Utah and Colorado, if you can count that. But we'll take those, and Arizona State. But then the Big Ten's like, no, we have standards, and we're not going to bring in any other teams besides those, which is fair. You're allowed to do that when you're that conference. But my thought process on this is like, at what point is it too many teams? Like, at what point are we going to like take a stand and be like, this is the cutoff for how big a conference can be? But also, if we are going to have a number in the title of your conference, it needs to be the number of teams that are in your conference. I'm not doing this anymore. We've done it for a couple of years. We've ignored that this is a huge flaw in the system. Rename your conferences after you figure out who's going to be in them. Yeah. And if you don't want to have to change it every year with a number, don't put a number in it.
Yeah, good luck with the branding on that. I agree, by the way. I like that your head goes there.
It's irritating. I need that to happen. I'm done. We've changed it. We've changed all other things in college football. We need to make this make sense. Make it make dollars and cents, please.
Yes, I'm in. It is funny. I just keep thinking about Cal. It's like, sure, like we're
going to get out there. Like do your shit now before they change their mind.
Yeah, they're doing it, guys. Holy shit! Like that's. I don't know why I keep thinking about Cal and all this, but I do.
And Cal is seeing dollar signs because Cal, I believe, is in quite a bit of debt in terms of and needs some help there.
Yeah.
So they're looking at it as like hey, we're gonna get a bigger chunk. Although, like, again, you do have to start thinking about like at what point do they cap this? And we did talk about how the SEC commissioner said Sankey was saying that he was good with the amount of teams that they had in, and they were kind of set on that.
Well, so that is a perfect transition to the statements that we read a couple hours ago before we recorded from Florida State, which has sort of been, when you are combing through the rumors, you get to the Clemsoning, and not in the bad way, but Clemson stuff, Florida State, sorry, Clemson fans, didn't mean to, old habits die hard. But Florida State, this is their president, right? And there's a series of comments I found interesting, but here's one that says it pretty plainly. You don't usually hear them say this behind, you hear it behind closed doors, but not in this open. We are not satisfied with our current situation. We love the ACC. Our goal to stay in the ACC, but to stay in the ACC under current situation is hard for us to figure out how we remain competitive unless there's a major change in revenue distribution within the ACC. Now, that openly is saying y'all fucking suck. The Magnificent Seven or whatever it was, like, y'all suck. Clemson and Florida State are doing the heavy lifting here, and without us, you would be a worse conference than the Big 12, which you would be. Give us a bigger piece of the pie. I am fascinated by this because, again, Florida State has been like kind of beating around this attitude, openly now saying, pay us or we're going to leave. Now, the penalties to leave the ACC are robust. I forget what they are, like $30, $40 million. But it could reach a point here where financially it becomes suitable to do so. This is a big deal because Florida State, you talk about the SEC and even the Big Ten trying to figure out who they add. Florida State is a catch, right? Florida State is a team that I think most conferences would want to add. Clemson, of course, would be a team that most conferences want to add. These comments are kind of shocking, and yet in some ways not shocking at all. And I'm curious how this plays out, other than we know that the posturing now is on.
Yeah, I mean, the only movement we haven't seen is from out of like the Power Fives is the ACC. Everywhere else we've seen movement. So this is, there's going to be people who leave. Clemson is going to be someone who wants to get out, obviously, even though those fans are going to be sadly disappointed when they have to play a tougher schedule. But yeah, Florida State, someone is a program you would certainly want to bring into the fold. Where they end up, I don't know, but I do see, the powerhouses in those conferences sort of sticking together and figuring out a way, like you said, to get the most out of what's being offered to them, really. And also the other thing is Florida State's paying a lot of coaches not to coach for them, so they probably need the money.
Yes. And by the way,
they are, though.
No, they are. It's true. I mean, it has not, finally, I think they're actually getting very competitive
finally got their
at the
guy.
right time. But I'm reading some of these other quotes. Now, this is from trustee Drew Weatherford through sources, Brett McBurphy. It's not a matter of if we leave the ACC, but how and when we leave. Like, yikes. Like, holy shit.
Yeah.
I think that this, to me, I mean, you have this unrest. You've got and Florida State is in a position of obvious strength. You have the Pac-12 in a position of desperation. You have the Big 12, by the way, which was on life support, suddenly kind of like, hey, we could be fine here. We're not going to necessarily compete with the ACC or the SEC or the Big 10, but we could actually add some fun teams, some good programs.
Are they quote back? Unquote?
They're in a pretty good spot. You wonder what is it going to look like without Oklahoma and Texas? And I think from the Big 12 standpoint, all is not lost. And this is good for the Big 12. So I like this stuff. It's captivating. It certainly makes for a way for us to get to week 0. Are you tired of it at all? Like, are you getting to that point? Because I'm kind of getting there too.
Well, I'm kind of just sick of all the like, tell me when it's over. Like, tell me when it's all happened and said and done. I'm kind of done with the rumors and things like that because we've heard it. And like what's interesting is like with the UCLA and USC to the Big Ten, that was like it happened. It wasn't like we heard about it. It legitimately happened. And all of us were like, holy shit, this is real and it's official now. So I wish it was a lot more like that. And I feel like we've just heard so many things. And I thought that some of that stuff would move as quickly. Even with the Colorado stuff, we heard about that weeks ago. And like it still took a couple weeks for it to get done. So yeah, I'm just kind of ready for it all to be organized. But I wanted to say one last point on this. This is not a coincidence that this is all taking place right before the playoff expands.
Correct.
Like this is all because the playoff is expanding as well. Like, that is a huge factor in all of this. There's going to be more money involved, more TV right deals, more. And it's just going to keep going. But I do think that we will sort of like we've seen in other aspects of the college football landscape changing, like it will balance itself out, because I think once, next summer comes around, it is going to be established for what it's going to be for the foreseeable future.
So to this point, I thought Dennis Dodd wrote a really interesting story for CBS. Basically, the headline says it all. Third-party influence may soon shake up foundation of college football, impacting conferences and programs. And what you're getting to here is the thought, could a private equity or some other entity come in, buy out Clemson, all these television contracts for $500 to $750 million and just start a conference and just say, screw it. And this is relevant. I think it's fascinating. And I think the piece is very upfront, saying, hey, we're not there yet. But at a time when you look at like the Live and the way it's changed with the PGA Tour, right? And I don't necessarily think it's a direct comparison, but you've got these entities these equity entities with so much money that if they found a side, like the right teams in the right situation, you could make this thing work. And I think it's fascinating. I love chaos, and this is like peak chaos.
We talked about that. We literally said that when the Live and PGA Tour thing happened, we said this is going to be the starting point of it happening in all other leagues, and college football is not exempt from that because it's a, quote, amateur sport. Like, it's not going to be exempt from that kind of stuff. Like, I could absolutely see this happening in the future. It is incredibly fascinating. There's so much money involved. Then it would become like, if these conferences are owned, then there would be the situation of paying players because they're under ownership at some point. So it could get tricky, but like you mentioned, it's not like this is happening next year. I don't even see this evolving in the next 2 to 3 years. Maybe at the 5-year mark we get to where it makes sense. But there's a lot of things that would have to work out for this, because it's also like, who's the governing body at that point? Because if they're not amateur, and like, what other sports come with it? You buy all of the sports? Yep. Is it just the college football teams? Like, there's a lot that I think is going to have to go into this in a thought process. Some people are going to try. Let me just say, people are going to try in the next 5 years, and it's very complicated. It's much more complicated than any other pro sport you would buy into. So worth it for sure, but
the story alludes to Steve Cohen, who owns the Mets, and this is one close to me. The Mets are a disgrace, and I'm really mad at them, and they lost on a walk-off fucking balk last night, and they traded away all their players. Steve Cohen, though, essentially is paying $150 million for players to not play, and he bought a farm system that is really good by trading away, Hall of Fame pitchers who are, over the hill, and I'm tired of them too, but he's paying like most of their contracts and getting good prospects. The point of this being, Cohen is a guy who's got like, I don't know, $10 to $14 billion net worth that is essentially trying to buy success. Forget about even buying something profitable. There is a lot of money out there that people could group together and do this stuff. Like, look at the way the Saudis have done this with golf. We're trying to pay a soccer player $1 billion, right? I know these things are not direct comparables, but there is so many people with so much money out there now that if they wanted to inject some chaos and they could monetize it the right way, college football is there for it, I think.
Yeah.
And not right now, to your point. I don't think there's a direct, like an A to B to C. Here's a conference of super teams now that's separate of the NCAA. But I do think that this conversation seems to be becoming more relevant and more realistic the further down we go with other sports.
Yeah. And let me just get out my little violin to play it for you, because your owner is willing to put money into your baseball team and all those things. That was boo-hoo. Boo-hoo for you. Okay. You're like, wow, he's worth all that money. And and he's willing to like buy a farm system and do all of this. And I'm thinking,
well, they showed a statue.
For you. Boo-hoo for you.
Steve Cohen has like $1 billion art collection. And I saw this on Twitter. And they're like, Steve Cohen paid $150 million for this statue. You don't think he's going to buy out Justin Verlander's Like, that is, like, there's wealth discrepancies in this sport, as you know. It's funny that our two baseball teams that we root for, you still root for them, by the way?
Yeah.
Okay,
not the players' fault.
No, I'm just, taking inventory. Vegas will be fun. Go to games. That'd be great. Inadvertent,
I love how you're trying to make it better. But no, it's
I think
hilarious.
I'm making it worse.
But also, like, it is frustrating because what makes it even more frustrating, I know this is not a baseball podcast, but it is frustrating when there are so many people that are willing to buy the Ace. You know what I mean? There are people that are willing to invest lots of money in sports and just not let them, which is just ridiculous. But anyways, we did talk a lot of football this week, I guess last week, in the BR app, on BR Lives. And one of those was early predictions for the college football playoff. Now, the people of this podcast know that you are riding the Texas train, and you are, very excited about the prospect of them this year. And it kind of got me thinking about, Texas and Oklahoma, their final year in the Big 12.
Yes.
And what it actually will look like. You obviously believe that Texas is going to win the Big 12.
Yes.
Do you think that they lose any conference games? Do you think it's just the Bama game? Like, what are you overall looking at the season? Pull up their schedule.
I am.
We can see. But, like, do you think you really have that much faith after what you've seen of Quinn Ewers and of Sark and of
You're saying it in a way that you're like, are you sure you're going to do this?
I'm just checking in. This is me checking in, but
it's a wellness
letting
check.
you do this. And of course, we're going to actually preview conferences coming up in the next couple of weeks. But I just wanted to give you the opportunity to really discuss the Texas points that you maybe talked on the live a little bit about.
That was a fun
very
live.
Curious.
Oh man, people love their teams, which is great. They should love their teams. So as I looked at Texas, yes, you've got Alabama, but I think Alabama. You can't. It's Alabama, so that's going to be a very tough game. It's Alabama, period. But the rest of this conference schedule, like, they kicked the living shit out of Oklahoma last year, right? Now Oklahoma is, I know, Oklahoma is probably, and this is a separate discussion for me, one of the hardest teams in all of college football to handicap this year. Like, I really struggle because I like their quarterback. I think their coach just, got off on a really bad start. They've got some talent. It's going to be an interesting year. We could talk about that. But to your question about Texas, I am kind of all in on Texas. I don't think they're going to win the Natty. I'm not going that far. But when I look at this schedule, let's do the win-loss game. You want to do this? Let's do this. We got Rice. That's a win. We've got at Alabama. Let's say loss, right? Wyoming, win. At Baylor, I'm going to go win. Kansas, they've lost that game. Not easy, but at home, win. Oklahoma, neutral, win. At Houston, BYU, Kansas State, at TCU. It's not the same TCU team. It's not. At Iowa State and Texas Tech, which I actually think could be sneakily one of maybe their second toughest game. I think that they can absolutely go undefeated in conference play. And I think they will. And I know.
Yeah, with that, they would most likely end up in the playoffs, so I will give you that. But like I said on the live stream, the last time a Big 12 team went undefeated in conference play was 2016.
I completely fair, but
this is Texas we're talking about.
But they're good.
If Lincoln Riley Oklahoma teams didn't even go undefeated in conference play,
they didn't have this level of they had great quarterbacks, and but they didn't have, I think, this level of roster of assembly. And I don't know. I love their pieces, and they lost Bijan, and I still love their pieces.
Yeah,
I'm curious though. You're obviously not as crazy about Texas as I am, but do you see the blueprint here?
I see the potential for sure, but also having watched college football and know how hard it is to be undefeated. We're just so, I think too, we're a little far away from it, but I think we were so used to Clemson and Alabama and now Georgia. It's hard. That's really, really hard to do.
It is.
And I think that that's the part that I don't know that Texas has that in them. And I think the Oklahoma game is going to be an interesting one. I do want to talk about Oklahoma a little bit because I do think that last year was a disaster by Oklahoma standards. I don't think it was as bad as maybe it was made out to be, especially for like a first-year head coach who also there was always questions about his ability to be a head coach. So that should be interesting this season. I do think that they get better this year. I think they have, I always say that I think that college football programs should give coaches time to bring their own guys in. And I know it's not like Lincoln Riley left him with a bunch of scrubs, but it's not, those aren't their guys. So sometimes it's hard when you just come into a roster, whether it be talented or not. So I'm interested to see the adjustments that are made, but I do think that they make a step forward. I don't think it stays as bad as everybody thinks. But I do think there are other teams, like you mentioned, Texas Tech. There are other teams that could really be feisty in this roster that won't be gunning for the upset of Texas because they are seen as top dog, and I do think there is hype. Although we did ask the chat if they thought USC or Texas was more likely to make the playoff, and the chat said USC, which I was shocked. I really did think that people thought Texas because their road is a lot easier than USC's is for sure.
For sure. No, again, Oklahoma's a really interesting team for me. They had injuries. In fairness to taking over a team like this is hard. Massive change in terms of just stylistically. We'll find out about Venables, but they have a really good quarterback, and that quarterback in Dylan Gabriel, when you have that, you have a chance. I also wanted to point out, I saw this today too. This is separate of football stuff, but Brett Venables' wife, Julie, they said just was diagnosed with breast cancer. Kick its ass. Let's go. Yep. I think I want him to do well. He's one of the most interesting people in football, I think. The guy that scratched and clawed for a job, got this job, which is a great job for him. And I think naturally has assumed some doubters when you don't have success. This is such an insane profession. Look at last year, injuries, all this stuff. And everyone's like, oh, is he cut out for this? And it's my God, it is hard to do. They've recruited great. They're doing a lot of things right. I just don't know how to assess them. I do know this. We're going to talk about Texas' schedule being easy. They're easy as well. And the other part of this too, we talk about just job comfort. It's only going to get harder next year, right? There's not a lot of UCFs and BYUs and no offense to those teams, but
hey, those are new Big 12. I know, put that in there,
but you look at their team and they should win a lot of games by just natural talent advantage, and I think they should.
Yes. But I did want to also talk about Jeff Banks, who's the special teams coordinator at Texas, but he was at Alabama. And shout out Pole Assassin for those off the field stories.
Ooh.
But he was saying that he's gonna tell the team, what would you say to the team about playing at Alabama? It was just another road game. And I know that's just coach speak, but come on, it is not another road game in the Big 12. That's the funniest thing I have probably ever heard.
I saw the Alabama fans were having a good one with this. Obviously, his recent history also is kind of adding to the fire a little bit. It's coach speak. It's
so funny.
Good luck, Mr. Banks. I'm just saying. Good luck with everything else. It is funny. What is he supposed to say though? Yeah, we're scared shitless. I'll tell you that much. It's a tough place to play.
No, but just say hey, yeah, we know it's a bigger road game, but that doesn't change the circumstances. You guys are fully capable of doing this, but to just be it's another game. It's just so funny. I love that stuff.
Yeah, resident Alabama beat writer. Anxious thoughts on
a beat writer would be way more critical than I am. I'm just a straight up Alabama fan.
No, that's true.
You just call it straight as made. I'm totally okay with that. something we did skip over, that we need to circle back to, sorry, is it just makes me sad a little bit. The Iowa State and Iowa gambling, this is a controversy. It's more than that. So some former and current Iowa and Iowa State athletes, whether they be football players or baseball players or wrestlers, are being charged for either gambling underage, gambling on Iowa State sports, or in the state of Iowa, I should say, and sporting events that they were playing in. So this is bad. This is the bad side of sports gambling. We've seen it a lot in the NFL with a lot of suspensions. I've heard multiple players in the NFL say that they've been told the rules, like, not to do this in the facility, in hotels, blah, blah, blah. College, a little different, where you're maybe dealing with more, there's a little bit more chaos going on. And it may be harder to monitor, but that doesn't excuse the fact that, like, it's pretty basic knowledge to, like, not bet on sports, specifically that you're playing in, and Hunter Deckers should hunker down, because this is going to be a long one.
Oh, wow, look at you. Holy cow.
Just turning a mess up into a known joke.
Back to you. Okay, so I have been dying to talk about this all day.
Okay, and then I skipped over it in our dog.
No, we're talking about football stuff, so I don't care. I knew we were going to get to this. So I want to focus on the Iowa part of this story, which is their backup kicker, Aaron Blom, was involved in this. He bet the under in Iowa State, and he won by like a half a point, okay? So I want to talk through this because that's fucking funny.
Okay, by the way, we're not making light of it. It's not okay to do this.
No, but this is my problem. And I'll be open with you in the pod. This is a very serious thing.
It's a safe space.
That's still fucking funny, okay? It's a very serious thing. I want him to be okay. There's potentially criminal charges in this.
Yeah.
And this is like Twitter, like, everybody's trying to figure out, like, how far can I push my jokes? Because you've got kids and you've got small bets. Like this is, I get it. And this is happening all over the place. This is not good. I am not endorsing this. It's still fucking funny. It's Iowa State. They're two shit football teams. They don't score, and they win on the under. And, of course, the under wins. That is a bet. So I'm torn, Paige, between the humor of Iowa doing Iowa stuff and some very serious things. And I just wanted to go through, like, this is football therapy for me of balancing those theories. And, like, it's funny you jump in like, oh, no, don't do it, buddy. Like, don't go there. But I'm watching all of Twitter, like Reese Davis and others, like, making light of this. And I'm not mad about that. I think you have to at least have some of that in this, because the actual reality of it is very serious. And the consequences, I think, are going to be very serious.
Yes.
And teams are terrified of this shit. I know that. Teams, this is not an Iowa State thing. You're going to have other situations where they can find it. And the other thing I'll say, because there's part of this in my background too, it is very easy to know who is, you look at the NFL with this too, where the wagers were met because of the geolocating, where they bet them, where were you, when were they, like, if you're in violation of this, it's pretty easy to find out.
Yeah.
By design.
So if we're going to make jokes, I might as well get in on this.
Thank God. Jesus, you look very
sweating
serious.
Over there? You're all red.
Woo.
I was looking at and there's no unit shaming on this podcast ever, but I was looking at the amounts waged, and you could see, you could see, like, total amount waged. You can see which players are which, basketball maybe making a little bit more because there's less of them, and able to put more down. Guys, like, I'm star players versus backups.
Oh, yeah.
You can see where the discrepancy is in terms of funds for this betting habit that these athletes have. But I do want to say that I did notice I don't think there's a single female athlete listed on this. So,
man, we're just we're not thinking this stuff all the way through, okay? But like, again, the part of this to full circle, I think that the sports have a real issue here.
Yeah.
And I think if you're a backup kicker at Iowa and you're like, I'm going to bet the under on this game. Like, what's the real hurt in that? Most likely 0, potentially a lot. Yeah, you can't do it. You can't do it. You can't do it.
There's so many other things. The other thing is, there's so many other things to bet on.
I think with betting, which we love and we endorse and we promote responsibly.
Yes.
It is. It's what I love to do. I can't wait to talk about my UFC betting from last weekend. Which was mostly responsible betting. I do think because of the age and because it's college, there's just this weird 5. I just want to make sure that we can still joke about Iowa and Iowa State barely cashing an under, regardless.
Really, an under,
okay?
yeah.
That is still, that game was fucking bad.
Over-unders are kind of the best in college football.
I can't wait. I hope you get squared away this year with where you are, because last year you went through
rough.
it. Yeah, you went through it though with the
really
over-under.
Took a week heater and then was like, I'm not betting anymore. I can't do this.
Yes, no, it's
the
over-unders in particular. Yeah, we will. No, but your over-under mentality. We were team overs, and then you kind of abandoned ship, and then I think
I was always team over. Not in the Big Ten though. That was not a thing. But now things are changing. No, who knows what conference anyone's going to be in? Okay. Yes. I want to play everyone's favorite game, even though I spelt that. I don't know if you see that in the topic.
Which coaches?
It was what, and then I switched it to being grammatically correct, and I forgot to take out the T.
It's perfection.
We are playing which coaches are on the hot seat, because this is everyone's woo. Give your applause.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
Because honestly, I just love this game.
I do
because college football fans are the most difficult fans to please for any coach, I feel like. And we're going to start off with someone I particularly just enjoy talking about at all times. And let's go with Jimbo Fisher. There was a lot of conversation last year. Obviously, the contract, a big portion of that. What are your thoughts on Texas A&M and what needs to happen for Jimbo to keep his job? Or do you think that, like, we've talked about that there's a lot of money around this. Is his contract too much money to pay him not to coach?
Now, I don't have the specifics in front of me, but you're talking about a buyout still of like $70 million?
Yeah, something ridiculous.
So, I mean, again, we're in the spirit of what we were talking about earlier, which is like buying sports and teams.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot, even for that program.
Mm-hmm.
But you have to at least have this conversation because it has been so disappointing.
Mm-hmm.
And now his hopes and dreams rest on Bobby Petrino, which I find wonderfully ironic. I've got 2 points. I like Texas. I'm writing an article right now about dark horse conference championship winners. They are one of them. I think you have to at least look at A&M as, if the pieces are to come together, it could be really interesting. That is not an endorsement, but for all the recruiting that has gone well for them, which is a lot, and they have a quarterback, and they have some receivers, and they have an OC if they let him actually do his OC jobs and Jimbo doesn't call plays.
Is he actually going to pass the sticks?
It's a super complicated one because if he doesn't have a good season, he should be fired. But he's owed $70 million. So it's almost like its own separate discussion. You place in a different bucket. And frankly, there's a couple coaches on here that are so contract dependent that it's going to be a really difficult conversation for the booster.
Yeah.
But can you imagine him being fired? Say they win 7 games and he gets $70 million to go away.
That would be wild. That would be absolutely wild. But I don't know. I don't know what I guess, like, I'm looking at their schedule and let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Yep.
6, maybe 7 to 8 wins.
How's that gonna go over?
Yeah, I like that's not enough, I think, to keep him, but they have to find a way to negotiate out of that deal. I feel like people have been working since last year to figure out a way to get him, somehow make it less,
Well, the other name on this list, let's transition, Mel Tucker.
Yeah.
Mel Tucker.
Talk about prisoner of the moment contract extension that really just
and it's not going to go well.
No.
It will not go well. With A&M, you could connect the dots and say recruiting equals like X, right? Finally. But with them, I mean, I don't know. What was that 10-year, $95 million contract like 2 years ago? I don't know if he can be fired. He's 18-14 overall. I don't know if he's fireable, but from a hot seat and just a general discomfort standard, it's pretty damn high.
Well, and
right?
I think the hot seat conversation has changed because there was a time where we knew that contract situations probably played into that, and teams were going to go, no, we're not doing it. That's not a world anymore. That's we're getting whoever out, we're buying whoever out. The money will come, we'll figure it out. So, but I think in Jimbo's case, you do have the talent, and not to say that Michigan State's not going to have the talent, but I don't think that like the conversation is the same in the sense of, I think Jimbo has a better chance of rerouting this and making it more successful on the field than Mel does. But I don't know that the expectation is as high for Mel Tucker and Michigan State. You know what I mean? Like, what's the you're not going to beat Michigan. You know, like you're not going to, and the Big Ten is doing away with divisions. So maybe, but you're adding 2 new.
Yeah. Like, so,
I think it's not this year. If not this year, next year's the year where they have the conversation. But I don't see him actually, like you said, it's discomfort. Less of hot seat, more discomfort seat.
So I think contracts are making the hot seat conversation very, very difficult. Like I just found CBS, right?
Mm-hmm.
When you look at their hot seat rankings, they've got Tom Allen at Indiana. Yes.
But why?
Because they suck.
So?
Neil Brown at West Virginia, who almost got fired. You got Danny Gonzalez on there for the Lobos.
They have Chris
You got Dino Babers for Syracuse.
Syracuse, yeah.
You got Jimbo on here. You've got Butch Jones, Arkansas State. So like, and then you get into some of the other ones, right? But I do think the contracts have made this really hard to do, and I think the decisions going in are going to be more challenging.
Yeah.
Ryan Day. Let's talk Ryan Day.
I was just going to say, let's talk him and James Franklin, because I feel like those are two guys that like have actually been very successful, that it's very odd to me that this is and also like look what they're working against, maybe more Penn State than Ohio State, but still.
Well, like James Franklin's a great one. Like won the Big Ten, right? They won the Rose Bowl. But they got in because Ohio State got into the playoff, whatever. But they lost 2 games. They were really good, and they won the Rose Bowl. And then now, though, they're kind of entering this new echelon of expectations with a young, good quarterback, great running backs. Like, this is a really good team in a really, I won't say a really great conference, but a conference with some really good top-heavy programs. There's just this complicated relationship with Franklin and Penn State. I don't think hot seat's the right word. But I do think, like, for him, it's always been, how are you going to get over to that next hump and win? And like all the pieces are there for this team to get in and win. And if they don't, I do think the response could be not fireable, but like it's just always been odd with him as connection, I think.
Do you view that? I know you said you were doing dark horses. Do you view them at all as a dark horse to be able to?
No, I think I think they're a contender. I think they're legit. Like, and I'll pull up the odds because I just looked at this. I put put in the Big Ten Wisconsin as my dark horse.
I will say that is dark horse. You mentioned that on the live show, and people were very concerned about your well-being.
I know. What else is new?
Also, one of the biggest things is that divisions will go away and they will be able to, because I think if you look back at it, they probably would have played in some Big Ten championship games and had the opportunity to win a big game to come out of that conference, if not for that situation. So I think no one probably in college football is more excited than Penn State for those divisions to go away, kind of like we're seeing.
Really interesting odds. You have Ohio State plus 165, Michigan plus 170, and then you have Penn State plus 600 and Wisconsin plus 650. No,
to
that's
win
to
the
win the
conference?
win the
Okay.
conference. So the reason Wisconsin's plus 650 is because they're playing on the right side of the conference. But like Penn State should be really good. Would it shock me if Penn State won? No.
No, not at all. Yeah.
But let's talk Ryan Day because I want to get to him too. I don't know. I think it's absurd. I really do. You have a guy that's won like almost all of his games. Granted, he's lost 2 big ones to Michigan and a really brutal one to Georgia. But what is realistically the expectation? Ohio State fans are brutal. Could he be? I don't see a world where he is fired. I see a world where he just says, fuck this, I'm leaving, and goes to like the NFL or whatever. But
You're right.
Yet, in the same breath, I'm constantly floored by the conversation surrounding him because it does seem like the unrest is building to a very like undeniable
volatile
level. Yeah.
It is crazy how quick the conversation shifted last year on Ohio State. I'm like, and I get like having high expectations. This is like probably going to be what it's like when, Nick Saban leaves Alabama and the expectations are incredibly high. But it just feels very, very wrong to have a conversation about him losing his job because he's done his job so well compared to probably 90% of the other. Him versus the field, looks pretty good. But yeah, it's a very strange thing that he does come up in conversation when people are like, oh, hot seat. They're like, we have to talk about Ryan Day. It's like, that is so wild. I think too, it's like all relative in terms of like what the expectation is for your program. Kind of like I was mentioning with like Texas A&M and Michigan State. Like you can keep Mel Tucker around and Michigan State fans are not going to like riot in the streets. Like Texas A&M fans and Ohio State fans like might riot in the streets if they want this coach fired bad enough. You know what I mean? Like there's just a different expectation for those programs. The programs.
To be clear, Ryan Day is 45-6.
Yeah, which is just wild. And he literally a field goal. By the way, I meant to tell you this. You said doink and someone was like, he missed it or it bounced off the top. That's not a doink or something. Someone like tried to correct what you said about that missed field goal.
I thought I said shank.
You said shank, and someone was like, it was a doink. Like I was like, that just goes to show you.
That fucking kick was like one of my tee shots. I mean, by the way, he's 31-2 in conference. So his 2 losses are brutal in nature to Mr. Jim Harbaugh. Brutal, right? Last game of the year.
Think about how many times.
No. I'm with you, and I think he has a complicated.
Also,
I do think there's pressure.
I don't know what that voice was. I'm sorry. It was just like a really upset Harbaugh.
Sounded like it's like a ventriloquist or something. But I agree that is one of the more interesting ones that we've seen. By the way, how good is it to like be talking football? Like
not. Like, how good is it to have things to talk about? It's great.
Yeah, it's like, oh man, I can't wait for the season.
Yeah, it makes making the rundown a little bit easier.
Yes.
So we have now done college football uniform rankings on this podcast. We did it on a Bleacher Report Live. I received a DM about if we have any favorite NFL uniforms. And if you say the Jets,
I do like the Jets unis.
Oh
my can't do that.
Gosh, no. I don't. What were the ones that were really bad that looked like mustard and like ketchup that were the colorway ones, or where it was like all one color? Do you remember that?
Yeah, I mean all of the color. All those color uniforms. I forget what they called. Are
they're
great,
color something.
Right?
I'm thinking of
like
what they're called.
Colorblind. I was going to say colorblind. No, but they're bad. They're bad.
Color Rush. There it is. Color Rush. There it is. Yeah, all those suck.
All right. I like the Buffalo Bills a lot.
Yeah, I would agree.
The throwbacks are also incredible. It just has good look, good colors, especially in snow. I like the Packers. I do. I think the Packers are like kind of iconic.
Yeah, that's
bright.
Against everything I believe. So no,
that's
I won't
fine.
Say that. I like the Eagles' new green jerseys. Well, they're not new.
Okay,
the Eagles
so this is like the throwbacks.
The Kelly green, yeah.
Yeah, those are.
I don't know if it's Kelly green, but I think they are.
Whatever those are,
whatever
those
green
are
shade. They're so sick.
Yeah, those are.
And the reveal for them was great.
The powder blue Chargers uniforms though are like the best, right? Like those powder blue, like Justin Herbert just throwing the shit out of a football. Why? Let's just say yes. Like we like powder blue everything in CFB, but you're like, well, no, it's the Chargers. So like everything in CFB, we're
I'm
like
not
North
sitting here
Carolina.
being like, I love the Niners uniforms. I love the white ones.
Niners got great look though.
They got a sick look.
They got a good look. Oh, see, there you go. Now you're
not gonna lie.
Now you're,
No, but no. I would go with like, I like the Eagles.
I do too. I'm in.
I would agree with the Bills. I don't agree on the Packers because that's literally, like I said, against everything I believe in my religion, basically.
Fine.
Even though I have a Packer backer in my own home.
I like the Dolphins. Dolphins have a nice look. Very nice Miami look. Like that Dolphin helmet is good. It's like iconic. Why are you shitting on the Jets, by the way? I feel like the Jets have a decent look.
They're okay.
By the way, Hard Knocks. Let's go.
Did you watch Aaron Rodgers' interview with Kay Adams by chance?
No, I didn't.
He's like the just most ridiculous person.
He is.
When he's like not in control of the conversation, he turns into like he's speaking in like a different language. Like he just
well, let me get philosophical here for a second.
Yeah, and I'm like, can you just answer her question? And like, if you're gonna give a little, say what you actually want to say. Don't be a.
On the other hand, did you see his answer about Zach Wilson? Like he was very thoughtful on Zach Wilson's struggles and like.
No.
Why? No, it was nice. Like it was a nice answer. Like it was a very mature.
I do want to see their dynamic in their relationship. That's going to be interesting.
I think Hard Knocks this year, I don't know what the ratings will be, but my guess is they will be the highest they've been in many years.
Speaking of.
Yes.
When we were on our live stream, there was an injury that happened to Joe Burrow, okay? We're not really sure the extent of it currently, but there is a rumor that he is going to be on quarterback. That if Netflix.
I saw that.
Now, I received numerous messages once this news was announced. I was very critical of the show. I'm still trying to work my way through it because, again, I think it's very cookie cutter. I think it's very surface level. I think we could have done more with it. Mannings, if you want to hire me as a consultant, I'm all ears. I think Joe Burrow would do justice, especially after hearing his press conference of, I'm just a guy. I'm just a guy. Like, there's like nothing that I don't love about Joe Burrow. Well, actually, that's not true. He does have a flaw. He's not a Swiftie. He's not a Swiftie, which, you know what? He could have really leaned into that, but he chose not to. That's fine. That's how I know it's genuine, is he's not just going with what's popular and, you know, leaning into the following that he has grown on a certain side of TikTok. But he's not a Swiftie, so that's his flaw. But other than that, one, I hope he's okay and this calf injury is not super serious. But I also just, if he is on quarterback, that's going to be next level good content.
Well, everybody else is saying no, right? Like all the other, like, Lamar Jackson
I thought he
said
no. I thought he said no. Like, I thought that was like a rumor that he had said no. And then it came out a few days later from like a very reliable source that like he was actually doing it. Because someone asked if he watched it. And what's funny is it was one of the beat reporters asked him like, oh, did you watch the Netflix documentary? He's like, would you watch a documentary on like one of the other like beat reporters? And like everybody, of course, busted out laughing because he's just such a funny guy.
I mean, honestly, right now, I don't know if there's a better name you could have.
Netflix knows what they're doing because the girls are gonna turn out to watch this. So I hate to say it. I'm sorry.
You don't hate to say it.
No, I do because I don't want to say that that's his only fan base. There are a lot of guys that love Joe Shiesty too. He's also a good football player. That's the thing.
Joe Shiesty?
Is that?
Yeah. What is that?
Are you serious?
Yeah. What is that?
That's his nickname, Joe Shiesty.
For who?
Everyone. Hold on, let me find the TikTok. I'm the Bengals posted TikTok. Was like, what's your favorite? It was probably on Reels. Okay, the formula didn't bring it up for you.
Fairly not.
I honestly can't get over that you called the algorithm the formula. That's still one of my favorite things that you've ever said.
There's some real dad shit going on around here.
Bengals.
Okay?
I'm looking this up.
Joe Shiesty.
I cannot believe that you are doubting one.
Well,
where's the one? What's your favorite?
You're throwing
Joe
it around
Burrow?
like a little aggressively.
Joe Shiesty?
Joey Shiesty. Hey, Joey. I do like Joe Burrow though. I think he's like The Rock. Like everybody just likes Joe Burrow.
That is such a good comparison. The Rock is like one of the most likable people.
Now, The Rock has had a few clunker movies here, but everybody still kind of loves The Rock. Like Joe Burrow, male, female, kids, whatever. Like everybody just likes watching him play.
Trying to find...
seeing a lot out there. Oh, looks like you're having to look for it.
I am. It was on the Bengals.
Yeah.
And they had one of the players like go around and ask like, "What's your favorite nickname for Joe?"
Oh, yeah.
It exists, and I'm gonna find it.
It does, but it looks like you're looking hard for it. So maybe if someone didn't know Joe,
no, that's all of them said Joe Shiesty. That is, Kramer, you're gonna lose this battle. I hate to tell you, producer Matt's gonna cut this out, and that we're going to post it, and the people are going to say that they have heard Joe Shiesty before. That is what he's called.
All right, dads, I got your back on this one. Okay,
dads, all the dads, text Jason right now. Ask him, do you know what Joe Burrow's nickname is?
Jason's on my side, I think, on this
one. I don't know.
I will. He just texted me about watching some fights on Saturday.
Speaking of fights, why don't you, while I'm looking for this, why don't you tell us about your...
So I told you this the other day. I don't really have a great story other than Sunday was about as hungover as I've been.
I found it, by the way. It was NFL on CBS, but I will play it for you after this.
So Sunday was a rough day for me. We had the block party, okay, and sun, not a lot of water on IPAs, went right into wine, and so I watched UFC card. I won 8 fights in a row. I won 3 different parlays. It's one of those, I'm not bragging, by the way. It's just one of those nights in gambling. Well, maybe a little bit. But here's why I take such deep appreciation from these nights. Not only did I win, but like the main and the co-main, Gaethje and Pereira, were both underdogs. Slight underdogs. Great. That's funny. Great fights.
Just laughing signifies that something's funny. You don't have to
But they were very enjoyable. I was in a different stratosphere, right? You ever see Interstellar when he's behind the bookcase? That's where I was. So, okay, betting on fights on Saturday night. But it was like all going well. And slept on my basement floor. Woke up, moved to bed, and Sunday was not great. But the activity and then you know that day after when you bet too, you're having a good night, and you're like, let me go take a look at how things went. You're like, oh shit, like we did all right. I had one of those.
You see the 1-1-1, and you're like,
you're just like, yeah. So I had one of those, and it was great, but like that set me back a couple of days. So I need to rein it in for the football season. I'm in no way or shape like mid-season, but I will get there.
Yes.
So that was my night.
That's incredible. And also winning those bets helps with that. So I do have on our doc to go over some locks. I think we should hold on that and do a locks heavy episode, seeing as we've been here. But I do want to play this. Bengals wide receivers pick their favorite Burrow nickname. And hold on, let me get it to start from the very beginning so I can get this whole thing in here for you.
Burrow, Shiesty. Joe Shiesty. Joe Shiesty.
Okay. So,
Shiesty ski mask, but he plays Shiesty, so I like that.
Just in case you're wondering.
I like the presentation of that.
Thank you.
From you and the way it was presented on their end. But I never heard of that. I
can't believe you've never heard of Joe Shiesty.
Well, you were very online. Okay,
Ooh.
You were
I'm not very online. I just Joe Burrow TikTok is where I live, where I thrive. Those are my people.
Okay, that is something someone very online would say. That's not a negative. I'm also very online. I'm just very online into like
in the formula,
the pockets
we know.
of older in the. I'm lost in the matrix. The formula.
For everyone, just as like a parting thought, I am gonna make Kramer record a TikTok with me right now, so that should be fun. But
Would you do it on the pod or after the pod?
We'll do it after the pod. I don't want. I don't want you to do it live. That's too much to ask. I
have one quick show review. This is way long.
Okay.
Have you watched The Bear?
No, but legitimately everyone I know loves it and is like, yes, chef. And the guy in it's hot, so I should watch it. But
that seems to be the consensus that I hear from this.
Did Caitlin watch it with you?
She watched the first couple. She liked it, but didn't love it. I love it.
Okay.
And so I'm like 3/4 of the way through the first season. And also it's Chicago. Like, and I'm not like must be in Chicago, but some of the references definitely, it's like it's an Italian beef place, right? Like Italian beef here is like a language. Like it is like Italian beef.
I believe you.
Have you ever had a good like Italian beef sandwich?
I don't think so.
Like Jardiniere, right? Does that like resonate with you?
No.
When I used to travel and I would go to places and say, "Can I have some Jardiniere?" They would look at me like, "Are you what the fuck is that?" So all of this is very Chicago-ish, but you don't need to be a Chicagoan to appreciate it.
Actually, I might have had something along those lines in New York, but I don't know.
I will set up a delivery that you'll say like, "Oh my God, this is, Portillo's," right? For any Midwestern folks, Portillo's is like.
I only know that because I watched a documentary where they ate it. The Smart List documentary that I told you to watch.
So good. All right, I'm sorry. But the Bear, very good. I'm in. I'm gonna
recommendations.
Plow through that thing in the next week.
I don't really have any random shit because Formula One is now on summer break, so it's off for a month. I'm devastated.
3 weeks.
Devastated.
3 weeks.
And then it comes back, and it's week 0 too. So basically, the best weekend of my life. It's great.
I can't wait. All right. Well, then, with that, very football heavy, which we like.